The following podcast episode is content from our sponsors, with no involvement of Tradewinds journalists.
Welcome. I'm Aaron Kelly, and on behalf of Tradewinds Content Studio, I'd like to thank you for tuning in to the Ocean Climate Impact Series podcast, where we're sitting down with shipping industry insiders to shed fresh light on the solutions that are helping the sector realize its increasingly ambitious sustainability goals. In our last episode, we spoke to Jotun about biofouling and biosecurity. Today, we're joined by Christian Bonfils. Christian is chairman and acting CEO of that company. And Christian, welcome.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you for having me on the show.
So, Christian, when we were preparing for this episode, the bulk of our conversation was about data and how it really is a game changer for the industry. If we're being honest, this is a statement that's been made many times before, countless times, by classification societies, software companies, and everyone in between. So let's begin by telling our listeners about how the data landscape has evolved and maybe make the case that we seem to be at a turning point.
Yeah, thank you. I think that we have known about data for a long time. I think when we discuss data, we talk about data for technical use. I think that we now have quality data, so we can use data more for commercial use, and that's our focus, to bring data into the more commercial decisions in what we do. And I believe that when we use data correctly and in the right manner, then we can accelerate decarbonization by using data.
So, in terms of data, is it a matter of the speed with which we're getting that data? This is like real time data. We're getting more data points. Is it also a matter of data quality?
We have upgraded the ships over the last 5, 10 years. Ships have become more digital, so we have lots of data on board the ships. As said, more technical driven, and then I think we have built lots of applications that are waiting for data of a certain quality. And I think what we have seen recently is that we have lots of fancy application, but we fill them with bad data. Our approach is a little bit different. We want to provide accurate data and data that we can use for commercial use to real validate vessel performance and to validate contracts between owners and charters, validate investments in energy saving devices.
So that's a great segue. I'd love to talk a little bit more about the dollars and cents when it comes to data and vessel performance. I mean, the health of our planet is, of course, critical for everyone, right? But at the end of the day, shipping companies are in the business of making money. What are the economic implications of this data, quality real time data, for ship owners and the industry at large?
I think that as an industry, lots of money changes hands every day, and because of lack of accurate data, we have contracts where we have built in lots of tolerances, and we all accepted that because that was just custom of the trade. And we paid for our fuel, and we knew that there were a lot of tolerances when we reported fuel, but that was US dollar, and I think we had as an industry, it went both ways. Sometimes it was in favor of the owner, sometimes in favor of the charter. But when it comes to decarbonization, we need to make sure that we get that very, very correct. And therefore, I think that by implementing accurate data into these contracts, because no one want to have a ship where you get a rating that is not correct because of incorrect data. So I think that it's more. We are moving more and more towards. That the whole industry will be asking for accurate data because we are being measured. Our performance is being measured, and we need to make sure that we are being measured correctly.
The way I see it, this really could be an enabler of things like green financing, right? Which is a topic that's been well covered over the years. But when you're talking about bank financing, you really do need accurate real time data. So there are a real economic implications for this when you're talking about everything, including green financing. Talk a little bit about what this could mean for green financing.
I think right now banks have requested owners to report of their CII, and it become also mandatory by IMO to do it by 1st of January this year. We do report, but there's not really any penalties except for the rating of the ships in terms of a bank financing. I think that if you deliver very correct data and you show the bank that you improve, I mean, your rate should be affected by that. Your interest rate should be affected by that. And we see, I think now 37 banks have signed up for Poseidon Principles. They ask us to report, but there should also be some benefit in reporting correctly. And then also, I think that the big incentive here is if you do a loan that is linked to your emission and you report that correctly, then you will see more and more owners that are incentivized to install energy saving devices. And I think, especially when it comes to energy saving devices and performance in general, we have just we bought and installed energy saving devices with the expectation that it worked. It was based on model test, but we never measured it in action because we never had a sister ship that sailed next to us without that device. But what data can do now is give us a super accurate view of what is the real effect of this, and that I think that could be the backbone of improvement in your interest rate if you use correct data.
Now, from a vendor perspective, right, there's a myriad of green solutions, vessel performance solutions. How are vendors reacting to your company and the solutions you offer? Let's take a step back for a second. Tell me a little bit more about the company.
Yeah, in Miros Mocean, we have a technology that have been used for more than 30 years on oil rigs, where we use radars to measure wave heights, rate directions, currents, and in the oil industry, they use that to optimize the drilling. When could they start in terms of waves, and when did they have to stop because the wave were too high. And when we got involved 4 years ago, we were looking for technology. We installed flows and torque meters on board the ship, but we were looking for very accurate seat state data. And we met Miros and we tested the system for more than a year on a Kamsarmax bulk carrier, and we got so impressed by the data that we ended up doing a joint venture with them, and that joint venture we call Miros Mocean. And basically what we do is that we normalize vessels performance from wind and weather, very accurately. It's sensor based. We measure every minute data, so where others do noon report, we do 1,400 measurements in the same period, so it's super accurate. We also have data that live up to the recently recommended practice by DNV in terms of how do you measure vessels performance. So that is the backbone of our technology, that we measure very correct vessel performance, and we normalize it for wind and weather. That's why we can measure the effect of an energy saving devices. We have done lots of tests, and we have even been able to measure, of course, hull cleaning, but even down to propeller cleanings, and where we measure. I think the big difference is that we can measure it very quickly, because we measure how much more power do the ship need to perform. So that have been the backbone of what we do.
Looking forward, how do you see your role and the role of the company in the green transition changing?
Yeah, I think, I mean, as you asked also before, I mean, in terms of energy saving devices and the vendors, I think that the vendors have been a little bit skeptical. I think the vendors have, first of all, the landscape of vendors have changed a lot. We used to have lower cost solution, bus cafins, maybe stop. So, I mean, solutions where you might have saved from 1 to 5%, but also the costs were relatively low. Now we see owners installing rotors, wind wings, much more expensive equipment, and our job is not to validate a single vendor over the other. I think our solution is a commercial solution. We want to measure continuously the performance of a vessel, and if that vessel install energy saving devices, we can measure the effect of that one. But we are not here to judge which solution is better. I think we are here to judge owner's performance, and that can be owner's direct performance. I think next step for us is also to measure, the performance in a contract, a charter party. We are working on something we call an ECP, emission charter party, where we measure vessels' performance continuously, and then we adjust the higher payment between owners and charters based on, the idea so far is that we do it every 3 months, so we adjust the rate based on last 3 months performance, and the idea is that the charter will pay for what they get. The owner know that their performance are measured correctly, so the owners are incentivized to install energy saving device. They are incentivized to put the best captains on and have a dialogue. I think it's much more about a collaboration between charters and owners in order to decarbonize. Owners cannot decarbonize alone. If an owner, I think we see that very clearly on CII. You can buy a very efficient ship, but if it's not traded efficient, then you get a bad rating. Here, our idea is much more transparency, collaboration, and then thereby accelerate decarbonization.
Do you see AI as a threat to your business?
I think AI is super interesting, but I think that equivalent to performance programs, you need to fill them with accurate data, and the better data you fill the AI models, the better results. So I think that AI is an opportunity for us, but I don't see it as a threat at all.
On that note, Christian, thanks for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
Don't forget to subscribe to the show so you don't miss a single episode. We're available on all major podcast platforms as well as tradewindsnews.com in the sponsored content section of the website. This part of the site is not behind a paywall, so you can access the show whenever you wish. And finally, if you're interested in working with the Tradewinds Content Studio for your marketing needs, please get in touch at advertising@tradewindsnews.com. We offer a range of marketing products from copywriting, audio, video, studio interviews at major calendar events, and so much more.